It's funny because I don't think of us as being like any older than we were 25 years ago, you know?
Mm-mm.
But given that our reunion's about to be upon us in a couple weeks, I'm going through all these pictures and I'm like, gosh, we look so young. Like there's
Mhm.
definitely a difference. Isn't it kind of wild though, how like in your mind, you're like, well, we don't really look that different. And then you
Yeah.
like, I just showed you that picture of us and I'm like, we look so different.
Oh, yeah.
Here, I'll
Mm,
pop the picture up if you're on YouTube. This is Sarah and I. I'll even put our other friend's face out just because she didn't consent to this.
oh, wow. We were that is
Um,
100% up to no good. I solemnly
hey,
swear I'm up to no good.
babies, babies, honey.
Well, speaking of babies and generations now, nice segue to today's topic, and I think I really like the title of this. I'd never actually heard it till you said it, and then I thought about it, and I was like, "Well, that's exactly what's happening." So we're talking about the generation sandwich. So what a generation sandwich is basically, us as middle-aged folks caring for or potentially caring for both our parents and our kids at the same time.
Yeah. Um, I have a lot of friends that fall in this category, but I wouldn't put myself in that. So I guess that's as morbid as that sounds. One of the benefits of your parent having a parent pass away young is like you don't go through that portion of it. Like up to this point, my mom still works full time and there's really no benefit to your parent passing early. But um I definitely have friends that are in this category. They've got young kids and they really are trying to be caretakers to their parents. It's definitely a conversation that's happening amongst my friend groups. I don't know
Mhm.
about you.
Um, Not a lot, but I think it's something that's, kind of on our minds because, again, my parents are pretty spry. I have them all
Right.
still. Jan's always on the case, kind of a thing. But I do think about like later on, like what is that
Sure.
going to kind of look like for our lives and, what kind of goals that we have as we're doing our own kind of like future planning. And I know that so many of our friends have pretty young kids in our 40s.
Mhm. Mm.
10 years from now, our parents are gonna be in their 70s, mid-70s. As you were kinda saying, we don't see ourselves as, like, aging or like, I just see, like, my parents as the way
Right.
that they've always looked.
Forever
Like, in my
young.
head
Wanna
yeah,
be
well, right, and then I think that my
forever
mom
young.
has always looked the same as she looks now, and I know that's not the case if I look back at pictures, but we just don't have that kind of perspective. Yeah.
Right. Because you see it happen like so slowly over time. But yeah, go back and look at picture like this deep dive looking for pictures of us when we graduated. I've looked at so many pictures as a result of it, and it has really made me realize how much time has passed.
Mhm.
And it's kind of wild, right? I mean, I guess this is the whole like midlife crisis. You think about all the pressure you're kind of under at this point in life. And I mean, I don't know about you, Sarah, but like I feel like the perimenopause symptoms for me have just amped up here recently. So I'm really trying to like rein in like my diet and exercise and doing all the
Mhm.
things that I know make me feel good because I have not been feeling my best self. But it is just like it's a lot. You can sort of see where it comes from. You got aging parents, you got kids that need you or that your kids that you're still trying to parent. You
Mhm.
probably have some type of career or you're a homemaker and like, that's also a difficult job and it's a lot for this age.
Yeah, and I think that as, we notice these changes just within our own selves and our own body and health, but then, too, it gets more brought to the forefront as our parents are starting to go to the doctor or having, like, knee surgeries or, open heart or just they get diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, and so when those things happen, I think it's important for us to kind of be aware that that just kind of accelerates other biological and cognitive processes. And so, like, if somebody has, cardiovascular disease, that's one of the high mark or the precursors for vascular dementia. So there's different types of dementia. And if they have like high blood pressure, again, cardiovascular disease, cholesterol, all of those things that affect that kind of again, circulatory kind of system make them more susceptible to developing, that vascular type of dementia that we see. And so I think us just even having basic knowledge of what some type of, um, you know, precursors or even basic symptoms and signs of things can really help us in terms of understanding sometimes where our parents may be coming from and their day-to-day lives, decision making, or whenever we get frustrated, like even with about simple things with them, or just kind of get
Right.
confused as to why there might not be something that's happening whenever it used to be. And so I think just having all of those kind of, you know, points of mindfulness into this can really help us now and then help us later in being prepared, because 10 years from now, that's a lot of change on an aging body as we've seen and kind of experienced, but that just gets
True
magnified
that.
the older that we get.
Yeah,
And I don't know that we are ourselves prepared
absolutely.
for, yeah, for that.
Well, and when there's a health issue with somebody involved in like your nuclear family, it changes the dynamics of the family. And there's no getting around that. And you just sort of are learning also that new way, whether you're now like in a different role of a caretaker or if you're um in more of like a supportive role. Maybe you're not really a caretaker, but you're a support person because they're equally, in my opinion, important, right? To have somebody that they can talk to and like just company is so important, I think. Having people around. And so it's a shift.
Well, and I think later, we're at a point in our lives too where we're doing our own like future planning as a couple. And so with that, we're thinking like, ages of retirement. Are we going to move? Are we going to stay here? And then again, it's like, okay, well, we want to continue to live and have like our life and to do, our goals and things like that. And that kind of brings me to the secondary kind of sandwich that can happen too is, I have the older son, right? Engaged, wedding 2 years out. At some point, because it's talked about, these kids are gonna have kids. And so now here's this other little layer to a sandwich. Whenever your kid has kids, you're still raising a kid, and now you have your aging parents on this end. So I don't know that that's a sandwich as so much of a mess. That just sounds like nachos on a plate, right? Where it all just kinda gets
That's
mixed
a
together.
lot, and not maybe not everybody's in that maybe there are a lot of people that are gonna be in that situation too. Like, I don't think I'm gonna have grandparents and aging parents, but you had kids young, like or you had
Mm.
Cam young, so, like, that is a real possibility for you particularly. Had never thought about that. The first part of the sandwich about, just like how that like your family's decisions and like that really hits home. That's a conversation that we have a lot in this house. And, I've told you, I don't know if I've said it on this podcast. If it was up to my husband, we would already live in a different state. Um, but, I like to be also in driving distance to my mother. And
Mhm.
we have, we have a really great network of friends where we live and a community that we adore. And so, like, all of those things play a part in that. But a big piece of it for us is the fact that my mom is, 7 hours away, or at least that's a
Mhm.
huge piece of it for me. So, it's a conversation we have all the time. And it
Mhm.
does change, it goes into part of the decision making process. I'm sure that there's a lot of people having the same conversation. We can't be the only ones that, you know, are making these types of decisions.
And then having continued, like, conversations with our partners about the inevitable things that could come up. Not that you need to have a plan in place, but that just to have a
For
discussion about
every
something I think
right.
can be helpful. Yeah, yeah.
Before
Or
yeah.
making sure that you have similar goals, because right now our goals are like a 8-year kind of plan that we're going to have to start to put into place in like 2 to 3 years and able to make it kind of work. And so we really need to make sure that we're going to have X, Y, and Z all lined out, and that does include having discussions about, you know what I mean, what your parents are gonna be doing or where they're gonna be. Again, I think it's just a discussion, not that it's gonna change anything, but I
You
think
never
it's
know what's
important to talk about.
actually gonna play out. Like,
Mhm.
there's so many different factors, so many different things. We have a dear friend, spending a lot of time with a parent right now that's going through a terminal cancer. Like, you never know what until you're in the situation, what's gonna be required or that you're gonna want to do. Not even required, but just, like, where you're gonna, want help.
Yeah, or even I'm in this kind of a thing, I don't know if anybody else is, but, it's happened a few times. Like, my parents will be talking about, like, what they wanna do, like, future-wise, and I'm sitting here like, not that this is judgmental. It's like a WTF, you know what I mean? Like, "What? Like, what are we thinking here?
Yeah,
Like, are we"
right,
which is fun, and so I'm like, "You go do you because this is your life, and I want you to go and do
right,
what you want to do too in this, and also I'm gonna do mine."
right.
And, if something happens, then ultimately I can't control it. So if I'm in Croatia or in, California, I don't know, anywhere, is it going to
Right.
change the outcome of what's happening? It will not. And whether that's my kids or my parents or anybody, I don't have that kind of power and control over the world. God knows what I would do with it if I did. Um, but that's where I just find peace in knowing that I think we all just have to have our own path and plan. And if Jay wants to rent an RV and go cross country, good for her.
Do
God
you, boo.
bless her at that time for having the bravery and the strength to kind of go out and do it. And, you know,
Mhm.
have fun. If my dad wants to move 3 hours away up a holler, okay. But it's hard to use my internet whenever you're three because he comes over. He lives in Milton, comes over all the time.
I was just listening to something the other day that was talking about, like, your people comes down to, where they are, like, spatially to you, right? The people that, like, are neighbors, like, the people that you interact with on a regular basis, are kinda like your nucleus, right? And that's,
Mhm.
I think a lot about, like, my mom and her sure, she could retire, but, like, a lot of her work friends and those relationships are, like, her nucleus, and, like, I would never wanna take her out of that, at least
Mhm.
not right now, because she really does seem to thrive. She's, like, living her best life, and she deserves that.
Mhm.
Um, but, I do think that um of course, I would love to have, like, her closer and just wish that, like, as she
Mhm.
gets older, of course, I could spend more time with her because you do realize, like, your time's limited and you're like, selfishly, of course, I want her to retire and move down here and, like, hang out with
Mhm.
me and my kids. But is that what's best for her or is that what I want? So, like, I have
Right.
a lot of those types of internal conversations.
Mhm.
Like, how much do I push things, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
just for
Mhm.
now, I'll let it be." But at some point, like, you're also like, "Well, I would love to have the opportunity to spend time with you when you feel good." You don't want it to be because they're sick. Like, you're
Yeah.
forced to you know what I mean? You want to actually, like, do things and spend time together and when they
Mhm.
feel good
Mm.
and they want to do things. And so,
Yeah.
I'm so fortunate my mom makes a real effort.
Mhm.
Like, I added in, like, a month, she will have driven down here 3 times.
Oh gosh.
Like, in, like, 5 weeks, 3 times in, like, 5 weeks. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Barb," but
Road
she does
warrior.
it, right? Road
Mhm.
warrior has
Mhm.
burned up
Mhm.
I-77.
No, I think that's true, and I think that for me, one thing that in keeping in mind what I see my parents kind of going through at their age and knowing where my next sandwich is maybe gonna come, like, I wanna be able to like, Rachel wants to learn how to do a cartwheel. I can still do cartwheels. I can still do a back handspring. Um, so I
Mhm.
wanna be
Can
able
you really?
to stay yeah, I wanna be able to stay and do those things, with the kids. And our good friend Lacey, Davidson, Ferguson, who was on the podcast, back in season 4, last 2 episodes, holistic provider. Check him out if you haven't heard it. But she really posts a lot, and I really believe it that the person that effort that you put in today into your life, into your health, is gonna dictate who you're gonna be not just tomorrow, not just for, summer body or whatever, but that's going to
Right.
be what you invest in 5 years from now, 10 years from now,
Mhm.
20 years from now. And so that is really resonating with me because, if Cameron and Brooke do decide to have babies and they're here, I don't want to be a grandparent sitting on the couch, not able
Right.
to play with them. I mean, I understand there are grandparents in that situation, but so much of that is behavioral decisions, hard truth, hot
Right.
take, whatever. It is what it is. And I don't want to be in that position. I wanna be able to play on the floor, you know what I mean? Rachel at 10, I'm very thankful that I'm still able to do the things that I was able to do then, but it's because I put the effort into maintaining those not even I don't do I care that I can do that stuff? No. Did I ever think it would matter at 43? No, but am I glad that I can and it does? Yes.
I do wonder though, because I'm like similar to you, like I have been working out since I was, in my teens. I'm like, I can't imagine if I hadn't. Yeah, I
Mhm.
can tell a difference at 43. I'll be 43, what, 2 weeks. But like I can tell a difference in my body at 43. So don't you wonder, like, yeah, I do think that if we had not been taking care of ourselves, that we would feel differently at this age. I don't think it has to be
Mhm.
53 or 63 or 73 to feel it. I think you feel it creeping in for sure. So I
Yeah.
do wonder, like, you know, I'm like, it's part of the reason, like that same thing. That's like what motivates me. I'm like, I just don't want to feel bad. I don't want to hurt. That's what I always hear older people say, like I just hurt. And I'm like, I don't want to hurt. I don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
I'll hurt now, like, but do it to myself, right?
Right. Right.
Make
And
the
I
soreness
agree.
myself.
Right, and I think for me, it's like, again, the only emotion that I could never help people with or, um, even myself with is regret, and so I don't want to make a set of decisions now that is gonna be putting me in a position where I'm going to regret that I did not do something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I just really am aware of that and invest, my time in doing this stuff today because I do believe it's gonna pay off tomorrow. Now, again,
In the end.
could
Yeah.
cancers or a stroke or,
Else,
you
yeah.
know, diabetes, whatever, could it impede upon those things? Sure, but it will not be the behavioral choices I'm making now.
There's a difference between your 60s and your 70s. There's a difference between your 30s and your 40s and your 20s and your 30s. Like your physical capabilities change over time.
Mhm, mhm.
And you just have to like, I do, be lying if I said I don't worry, especially if we're out of the country or something like that. Like if something happened, would my kids know what to do? But hell, that could happen to anybody. That could happen to a 50-year-old, outside mowing the grass or whatever. So can't think of it that way. But I do feel lucky to still have my mom and my in-laws that are so active and can be so helpful with young children because I need them.
I know, Jen's got the support system of an army, so it's
I do
great.
have quite a support, we have tribes. That's what
Mm.
I was trying to think of
Mhm,
tribes, like, who are your tribes? And you have different ones for different things.
mhm.
Um, you know, so that's all I got. I'm
Yeah.
tapped out. It's Friday.
That's it's Friday. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media. We've been posting tons of stuff on there. Our website. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, uh, probably something else. All the podcast platforms. Be sure to listen, share,
Lila's
have these
podcast.
discussions. Yeah,
I
share this one
found
with your parents. See what they think. We'll hear about it from
Yeah,
ours,
let it
so
open the
we'll let you
door
know.
for some
Mm,
discussions.
yeah, yeah.
All right, y'all, until next week, y'all. Lilas.
We out.